Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Introduce, my name is Zahra Tauhid, NPM 20201250060. I'm from S4C class, and in this video, I am going to explain a little bit about the future tense material to fulfill my academic speaking's final test scores. Happy watching. So I have already made a kind of model video to make it easier for me to explain to you guys about the future tenses material. So in this video, we're going to be discussed about the future tense in English. And before we start, let's just spend a few seconds looking at tense. As you can see, the tense of a verb is determined by when the activity takes place. So tense is about when. And let's put up a quick timeline here. So we have the present, the past, and the future. The three main tenses are the past tense, which is for activities that took place in the past. And the present tense is for activities that take place in the present. And the future tense is for activities that will take place in the future. As you know, the one we're looking at today is the future tense, which is for activities that will take place on this part of the timeline. Okay, I'm gonna move the timeline to the top to give it some space. So here we have an activity that will take place in the future as shown by the red arrow. And to describe this activity, we use the following construction. Will plus the best form of the verb. And let's look at an example. Martin will paint the fence. Will paint is the future tense. And here we can see will and the best form of the verb. To paint now, the best form is the version you will find in the dictionary. It's not painting, it's not paint, it's not painted. It's the infinitive form without the word to. So let's look at another example. The Moscow State Circus will perform in Boston next year. And will perform, that's the future tense. What you plant now, you will harvest later. Will harvest, that's the future tense. That's fairly easy so far, but unfortunately, it gets a little bit more difficult when you use this construction. You are using the simple future tense. And I want you to look at this word simple. That doesn't mean that it's easy. That tells you the aspect of the verb. And that's what we're going to talk about. And next, there are four aspects: the simple aspect, the continuous aspect, the perfect aspect, and the perfect continuous aspect. This tells us whether the activity is ongoing or completed. An aspect is part of tense, so we cannot talk about the future tense without also talking about this aspect. So the first aspect we've covered is the simple aspect, and this construction is the simple future tense. So the simple future tense is used for an activity that will occur in the future. Let's keep going. Next, we will look at the future continuous tense. Look at the red line at the top. Well, this is for an ongoing activity in the future. And the construction we use is will be plus the present participle. The present participle is the form of the verb that ends in. Let's look at an example. John will be singing for an hour. Will be singing, that's the future continuous tense. Those who are laughing now will be crying later. Will be crying, future continuous tense. In September, we will be enjoying all the fruit we planted in March. Will be enjoying, future continuous tense. So this construction gives us the future continuous tense. And remember, this is the word that tells us the aspect. The future continuous tense is used for an ongoing activity that will occur in the future. And let's keep going. Next is the future perfect tense. The future perfect tense is for a completed action in the future. So this is the construction. The construction is will have plus the past participle form of the verb. Now, the past participle is a little bit more difficult to form than the present participle because there are various endings. Usually, the endings are E, D, T, or N, but there are others. We have a whole lesson on the website about past participles. Okay, let's look at an example. I will have graduated by July. Will have graduated, that's the future perfect tense. The rain will have stopped before the game starts. Will have stopped, that's the future perfect tense. Jack will have taken the dog for a walk before you get home. Will have taken is another example of the future perfect tense. Will have plus the past participle form, so this construction gives us the future perfect tense. This word is here to describe the aspect. Don't forget, it's worth noting that when you have a sentence in the future perfect tense, there's usually a time phrase that tells you when. So, if we're talking about a completed activity in the future, it makes sense that we say when it's completed. So, look here in gray. By July, before the game starts, before you get home. So, to summarize, the future perfect tense is used for an activity completed at some point in the future, and that point in the future will likely be described in the sentence. Let's keep going because we're on the last one. It's the perfect continuous tense. This is for an ongoing activity that will be completed at some time in the future. The construction we use is will have been plus the present participle. And remember, that's just the form of the verb that ends in. Here's an example. I will have been playing for 2 hours by breakfast. Will have been playing, that's the future perfect continuous tense. If it rains again tomorrow, then it will have been raining for 3 days. Will have been raining is future perfect continuous tense. Jack will have been working down the mine for 20 years when he retires. Will have been working, the construction will have been plus the present participles give us the future perfect continuous tense. So when we use this construction, it's an example of the future perfect continuous tense. And we have to remember that these words are here to tell us what the aspect is. So much like the future perfect tense, if it's about something being completed at a time, then it makes sense that time is mentioned in the sentence. And here you can see them in gray. By breakfast, tomorrow, when he retires, but also we're describing an ongoing activity. So it also makes sense that the sentence tells us how long this activity will going on for. So here we have in blue for 2 hours, for 3 days, for 20 years, and as you get to become more familiar with the tenses, you will get used to seeing these time phrases. So the future perfect continuous tense is used for an ongoing activity that will be completed at a specified time in the future. And the sentence will normally tells us that specified time in the future, and it will usually tells us the length of the activity. So we have covered all 4 aspects of the future tense, and bear in mind that these aspects are also in the past tense, giving us 4 tenses there and in the present tense. Giving us 4 tenses, so in total there are 12 tenses, and that's what we're going to quickly look at. So the other thing I'd like to say is that it doesn't have to be a long time in the past. It could be 2 minutes ago, 2 seconds ago. It doesn't matter if it's before now, then it's the past. Same goes for the future. It doesn't have to be a long time in the future. It can be any amount of time in the future. Okay, let's look at these 12 tenses. I'm gonna clear the screen. So here are our 3 tenses: the past, present, and future. And here are our 4 aspects: is simple, continuous, perfect, and perfect continuous. As we've said, this will give us 12 tenses in total. The ones we've looked at today are the simple future tense, and the example of the simple future tense will wash. The future continuous tense will be washing, and the future perfect tense will have washed, and the future perfect continuous tense will have been washing. And just for the context, here are the four in the present tense, and here are the four in the past tense. But the ones that we've spoken about today are the future tense one. That's it. A quick explanation from me about the future tenses material. I hope it could be beneficial for everyone, and I hope it could make you more understand about future tenses. And yeah, thank you for watching. Have a good day.